Cool. Let me just let me just make sure. Let me just tag you. Actually, it's fine. I can tag you after we have the conversation. Justin, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is another edition of What's Your Why. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me, Mike. I'm definitely excited to share our story here.
I am as well. So talk to me about your story. Talk about the very early days. What led you to founding Future Proof, and also give us a little bit about what Future Proof is.
Sure. So Future Proof, we're a disruptor in the beverage alcohol space for the millennial Gen Z segment. We didn't become Future Proof as a company until about a year ago. Before that, we were Beatbox Beverages. So our flagship product, our core product, Beatbox Beverages, has been around for about 7 years in the market. And that is what we call the world's tastiest portable party punch. I have some here, though it's a little bit early, maybe mid-afternoon sampler.
Why not?
It's 11% alcohol, wine-based party punch that comes in eco-friendly portable containers. Originally, we did it in a big 5-liter container meant to be the centerpiece of the party. These are now kind of single-serve, grab and go. But Beatbox is what we started with, and then became Future Proof to become almost like a portfolio solution for our beer distributor partners, our retail partners, and our consumers to create disruptive products in the millennial Gen Z space.
That's amazing. So in terms of Future Proof, are you incubating then new disruptive products in the beverage, or how's that process work?
So if you look at in the vein of a Mark Anthony brands that has Mike's Hard Lemonade, but also is White Claw, and Cayman Jack, and then you have Boston Beer Company, which is Truly and Twisted Tea, and Sam Adams. So they're portfolio companies. And so with Future Proof brands, we did launch 2 new products, a hard seltzer and a canned wine, to kind of try and play in some of these fast growing segments. They're very small and just getting going, but Beatbox is really the focus. But we do have the ability, given our distribution network and some of the success we've had with Beatbox, to launch new brands through this portfolio.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I love that. That's amazing. So walk me through that moment or insight discovery that you really decide to take Beatbox Beverages originally as your full-time gig, and this is something that you wanted to pursue.
Sure. So we're kind of a unique story. We actually started it in the business school at the University of Texas. The reason I quit my job was I worked in finance. I was an equity analyst in Southern California for about 5 years, and I was 27, and it was I had a choice of either this was going to be my full-time career as an equity analyst, or I was 27, I didn't have any responsibilities. Let's see what else is out there, and all the other potential career paths. So made the decision to go back to school and move to Austin in 2011. And from there, had this idea with one of my best friends and co-founder and business partner, Brad, to basically create a party version of boxed wine. It was this idea that we were seeing these mega trends of boxed wine was showing up everywhere. You would see it at, usually Franzia. You'd see it at, college parties and tailgates and kickball games and beach trips. You also saw this explosion of the flavored malt beverage segment. You had companies like Mike's Hard Lemonade, Bud Light Lime-A-Rita, Four Loko, these high alcohol, more flavor products that were really coming onto the scene. And then the last trend was these major music festivals. We fell in love. I think in 2010 and 2011, I went to Bonnaroo and EDC and Coachella, and ACL, and just fell in love with the idea of that feeling of being in the middle of a field with all of your closest friends, not having a care in the world. So I met a few other co-founders, Amy, Dan, and Jason in the business school, and we kind of took on as a class project. So it wasn't like the aha moment was before I quit my job to go to school, but we subscribed at the time to the lean startup model, the how to build a minimum viable product. And for us, that meant emptying out Franzia bags, filling them up with vodka, Crystal Light, and food coloring. We went on designcrowd.com and crowdsourced different logos and box designs and concepts, put stickers on cardboard boxes, and had different alcohol percentages, different flavors of basically Crystal Light and vodka in a 5-liter box wine, almost the exact product we wanted to make. And we went to different parties or different places where this should work. And I'll never forget being at a pool party in the apartment complex that I lived in. And we brought down these 4 kind of makeshift boxes, and everybody at the pool came by with $20 bills saying, how can I buy this off of you? Where can I buy this?
Wow.
And, that was just for a few $100s of research. And next thing we knew, it was like people were liking this flavor. They were liking this box design. And we really had this confidence. Everywhere we did these little tests, people would try and give us money, asking where to buy it. It was true validation outside of our friends and family. And that's when we said, you know what, we're going to take this on and go try and make this a real thing. Of course, that came with a number of other challenges to actually create an alcohol product in a very regulated industry. But that was kind of the aha moment, was being at that pool and watching people just go nuts for it.
That's amazing. I mean, it reminds me, just that story, it reminds me of when I spoke with George at Yellowbird Hot Sauce.
Yeah.
And he was saying how, he was playing gigs in bars, but people kind of just started approaching him and asked him, does he have any hot sauce? He became kind of known as the hot sauce guy without trying to become the hot sauce guy. Yeah. And then eventually that kind of spiraled into
great hot sauce, by the way. George is
fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic hot sauce. That was my dad's Christmas present from me. Just
another Austin CPG brand. There's quite a number of us.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of you folks. It's great. So talk to me. I know you went on Shark Tank. And it's incredible because you got also Mark Cuban to invest, which is fantastic. What was that experience?
Well, we had kind of bootstrapped it from ourselves, from business school competitions, friends and family, to make the product, to get it out to the market. And we started to get enough traction. And from us from day one, it was like, how can we get ourselves as far enough on our own capital or friends and family capital to be able to raise money at a much better valuation? How can we de-risk this company enough so we can actually retain some of our equity when we go to scale it? So in 2014, at that point, we had signed on with the national distributor, even though we were only in Texas. We had outsourced our manufacturing, and we had a product that was working, in a limited number of accounts, but it was working well. And so we went to the market to raise money. And of course, every time we would do a tasting, people would be like, oh, you have to go on Shark Tank, as if you just fly down to Sony Picture Studios and wait in line and get on the show next.
That's how it works.
If anyone wants to go on Shark Tank, just head on to the studios. They'll let you film. But of the 80,000 companies that applied, we were one of 108 that made it on air for season 6. And it was a rigorous process. I mean, that's a whole other discussion of the weeks of preparation, months of preparation. And, you're trying to run your business and also preparing for like the Super Bowl of entrepreneurship. And so it was very intense, but we needed to raise money, but we kept having to delay it because we're like, well, we're about to, go on this show. We can't ruin that deal by doing a different deal. So we just made it as far as we could, went on the show, came in there asking for $200,000 for 10%, and, spoiler alert, but left with $1 million for a third of the business from Mark. And that was the moment, like when Mark Cuban gives you $1 million on national TV for a product that was doing $200,000 in revenue. That was all the validation, we needed, where, Amy and Brad quit their full-time jobs, and Brad moved to Austin, and we said, okay, this is not just a, in a few stores in Texas thing. We're going to take this thing as fast as we can go. And that was, pretty surreal, that whole experience of going on that show.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy in terms of, going in thinking how much you were thinking about and valuation, and then what you're able to come out with. That's just really impressive.
Well, Mark, we use this quote, ever since the show, which aired October 2014. So, it's been 6 years since we aired, but he said, you guys don't sell wine, you sell fun. And I think when we'll get to the question of our why, like we're selling fun, right? It's a wine base, but this is meant to be shared with friends, to have a great time. And he got that, and he understood the brand messaging, that it was an experiential brand, a lifestyle brand. We wanted him ahead of time, and that just confirmed to us that he got what we were trying to do. So it was a great match.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. And congratulations. That's just awesome. So talk to me about like maybe what was one of your big hurdles as an entrepreneur. I'm sure I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they tell me there's which one to choose. But I would say what's maybe one what maybe like one hurdle that you had to overcome?
I think in our industry, you don't realize it as a consumer, but all of the products you see are really owned by just a handful of large companies. Diageo owns, everything in the wine and spirit space, and from Smirnoff to Guinness to, all sorts of products, and Constellation brands and Anheuser-Busch and Molson Coors. They own the entire shelf, and getting distribution, it's very, very difficult. And when you raise $1 million on Shark Tank to run your entire company, you realize that's for your whole company. Salaries, inventory, sponsorships, everything. Anheuser-Busch will spend $1 million on a Facebook ad promotion, so it's like trying to compete in a space where you're going up against global multi-billion-dollar conglomerates that own the shelf space. Trying to crack that distribution is very, very difficult, and I can't overstate enough how difficult that is. And trying to understand how to get that distribution, because every state has its own laws. It's not like you get your permit for this market and that works across the country. You have to understand that Texas is a different market than California, is a different market than Arkansas. Everyone has their own law. So trying to figure that out and crack the distribution is by far the biggest challenge of any startup alcohol brand.
Yeah. That's certainly when I do have like alcohol brands that come on the show, I feel like distribution and regulation are the two areas that they certainly have issue with or have had trouble with along the way. So that makes a ton of sense. And I mean, I can't even imagine what you have to go through in order to.
We had to make big switches. I mean, first there's different ways you can go to market. We were with wine and spirits distributors to start that sell, high-end wine and vodka, tequila, gin, etc. We had to pivot in 2017, 2018, and we switched out of all of the wine and spirits and into the beer distributors, which distribute, Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors and all the seltzers you see. That is a totally different business model as far as where they own the shelf space in the convenience stores and the grocery stores. So even understanding within the distribution where you should be, it took us, 5 years to figure out.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that makes a lot of sense in terms of just how long it takes, because it's such a rigorous process. I mean, I can only imagine. I'd say my final question to you, I would say, is what's your why? I know you touched on this a little earlier, but what's your why, or how has your why evolved?
Yeah, speaking for me personally, and I alluded to the music festival experience, how much I fell in love with being in a field with 100,000 people, 2, 3, 4 days. Doesn't matter race, religion, sexual identity, just everybody is there having a good time. Just waiting for the next person to go on stage, waiting for their next drink at the bar, and you just have this escape. And Beatbox, the brand, it was the baby of that feeling of like the authenticity of being at that festival, sharing those experiences, having the time of your life with your close friends. And for me, bringing people together, hosting the pre-games, hosting the parties, sharing these really fun experiences is why, like, what I love to do personally. And that is authentic to the brand. And when for the why for me is seeing customers absolutely delighted, like from the marketing messaging, from being at a music festival and watching, just putting on the Beatbox hat and just being a patron at the festival and seeing people drinking and having conversations and them being like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, and emails and messages from customers that said, oh, I had this at Rolling Loud in Miami, and they live in, Nebraska, and they're buying it at a convenience store, and they're recreating that moment of that festival, their first experience, and we were a part of that and created those long lasting memories. That is the why for me, and delighting our customers day in and day out. There's nothing better. There's no better feeling in the world. And, I love doing it. So I love going to the festivals. I love being a part of it.
I think it's as, I mean, I absolutely love that. I think it's as, like Mark also talked about how your brand is about fun. It's about attaching these, when you think of Beatbox or when you think of Future Proof and some of the other brands that you do, it's attaching those to the actual moments in time and experiences and that affiliation for just things that you enjoy doing. And I think that's pretty pretty freaking cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think, customers, millennial Gen Z consumers are very, very smart, a lot smarter than these big brands give them credit for. And I think that why we've been able to resonate so well, I was 27 years old when we started this thing, right? And I'm 37 now, but when we had the idea, and so we built this because this is what we wanted to drink ourselves. This is what we were doing, real life living. We weren't some large company trying to slap a new label on some package because an agency said this is what millennials want now. So it was always very authentic. And I think the brands that will have staying power and that will live the longest are the ones that are not, inauthentic. You've got to resonate. It's got to be real. Otherwise, the consumers will sniff right through it, and that comes through in all the influencer marketing you see. And all of our stuff is very organic. People that are either invested in us and have capital, invested, or just love the brand and want to be a part of it.
I think authenticity also comes with, building on this point about authenticity, I think it also comes with, choice, the amount of choice that we have now, due to the internet, due to, being able to launch brands. I feel like there's, so many brands now out there today than there was ever before. And I think because there's so much choice, you can really sort through, which brand is being authentic and which brand isn't, right? Or within your tribe or community, you think that this trend is this brand might resonate to you rather than other folks. So I think that's one of the powerful things about all this as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Cool. Justin, thank you so much for joining me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, no, this was great. Really happy to be here.
Cool. I'm going to